Lull.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Diana Friedel, here at the Institute for Spiritual Development in Oneonta, New York, and you have landed in the middle of our spiritual service this morning, and this morning we are delighted to welcome to the podium with today's homily Connie Lull, and she has a homily, All That Is Gold Does Not Glitter. Come on up, Connie.
Yeah, it's good.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome in the room, on Zoom, and those of you who will watch us on YouTube later and Facebook now. We are very happy to have all of you with us. As those of you who have been here for the earlier part of the service have probably already deducted, we are visiting Lord of the Rings. Today we go back to Middle Earth for a little while. The title of the homily that I've come up with is All That Is Gold Does Not Glitter. Now, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, written by J.R.R. Tolkien, was first published in 1954.
Recording
Even
in
in those
progress.
early years, the book touched millions and then had a tremendous resurgence with the release of the 3 Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies. College courses have been created around this trilogy. It is such a master work of storytelling and world building that it has had an impact on its readers and its devotees to such an extent that many of us, me included, believe that Middle Earth, Tolkien's Middle Earth, exists in some time and in some place. That it is not just a fictional story, that it is real. Beginning with it, now, Tolkien himself was first and foremost a linguist, lover of languages, and a creator of languages. Some of you may have, when it got to the lines in Anya's May It Be song that we open with, those words that were not English, they were from one of Tolkien's created languages. They were Elvish. So beginning, just to give you a sense of this man's scope, beginning with the first novel that was never released to very large, popular, wide readership, was called The Silmarillion. And it was the story of the first and second ages of his world, which he called Arda. And then when he got to the Lord of the Rings, we were in the third age, and an age to him was 1,000 years. And in those stories, Tolkien is credited with creating 15 languages. And as I said, the song included Elvish, and just like as there are college courses for people who study the trilogy, there are also many who set upon themselves to learn his languages and are actually fluent in them, amazingly enough. Yeah. Yes. So I myself, Doug had read the stories in high school, was it? Yeah, my husband Doug, for those of you who are not in the room. I never read the books until after I saw the first Peter Jackson movie in 2001. But I have a vivid memory, and Doug is going to remember it too. We took a trip to New York City in 1983. And interestingly enough, I hadn't thought about it until right now. The subway, we were in a subway, and the wall was kind of ceramic tile of this sort of beige color that our walls are, and splashed across this wall, taking up the entire wall, was red, bright red spray paint in stylized letters with the 2 words, Frodo lives. And it would be 6 until I knew what that meant. And yet, energetically and spiritually, the hope and the inspiration in that profound 2-word phrase touched me from that day on, and I didn't even know what it was referring to in the story. That's the power of it. Now, as many of you may know, in his letters afterward, after the works were published and becoming very, very popular, the readership went kind of crazy, coming up with all these meanings and everything. And Tolkien, in his letters, insisted it was not allegory. I dislike allegory. This is not allegory. And the direct definition of allegory is a story, poem, or picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning, typically a moral or a political one. So having said that, and acknowledging that Tolkien said this is an allegory, I must beg his forgiveness while I proceed to suggest an alternative message to part of his work. I'm gonna do it. So this portion that I'm going to be discussing is from the early chapters of the first novel, Fellowship of the Ring. And in the storyline arc, it is a note left by Gandalf the Wizard for Frodo, who was traveling alone at that point, so that he could recognize someone called Strider, who he did not know. And this handwritten note left was in the form of a poem. And before and since, it is literally the only poem that has ever moved me to the point where I memorized it. I know it by heart. So if you would, I would invite you to maybe just soft focus your eyes and close your eyes while we will recite the whole poem for you. All that is gold does not glitter. Not all those who wander are lost. The old that is strong does not wither. Deep roots are not reached by the frost. From the ashes a fire shall be woken. A light from the shadow shall spring. Renewed shall be blade that was broken. The crownless again shall be king. And that's the poem. And I told you what Tolkien meant by it in the trilogy. But here I go with my allegory. Because I have always felt that that poem could just as easily be about all of mankind. And particularly applied to this time, while we are in the midst of the changing of the ages. And we're at the dawn of where we are actively transcending what it has always meant to be a human being. We are right in the thick of it. So where then do we look for hope and encouragement? And I suggest that some of it can be contained within the subtle energies and the vision in the words of this poem. So let's take it one line at a time and analyze it just a little bit. All that is gold does not glitter. Think of times of struggle and disappointment that you've had. All of us have had them. And some of the disappointment can be quite profound. But then we've also all had it turn out to actually be some sort of hidden gem. Some kind of soul growth, some kind of awareness, a breakthrough in a relationship, a habit that was not so good for you that maybe falling on hard times helped you get around it, get past it at some point in time. And then all of our interactions with our brothers and sisters, parts of us that don't shine so bright. where that part of us isn't what we hoped it would be. But I want to suggest to you that even those parts deep down, they're very deep, they're rich, and they have value nonetheless, whether they shine or not. And then there's times when we fall far short of doing or being our best. We can't all be on 24 hours a day. Your very best effort 100% of the time, I think it would be a little too exhausting. So to expect that of ourselves and of others, that's not really realistic to what it means to be a human on this earth. So remind yourself, all that is gold does not glitter. The next portion, not all those who wander are lost. How many times has your path not been the one you'd hoped for or expected? And how many disappointments have you weathered and gone on to try again? And hasn't the search for direction and clarity in some areas of your life seemed to be a constant pattern? Some places, for all of us, we all have something that's effortless. It's our gift, it's our interest. But then we also all have some places that are quite a struggle. Geez, I just can't seem to get that sound or get that right. But I want to suggest to you that you think of it as there's great value in the attempt. You try, and that has to have some value. And sometimes I think many of us, we're more willing to give somebody else the kudos for having tried something, but not so much for ourselves. So this would be something that I would encourage you to think of for yourself. The next line, the old that is strong does not wither. How many times have you failed, been exhausted and discouraged, or afraid, and did it anyway, and kept going? You tried, you just kept going, like the Energizer, there we go, Energizer Bunny. And humanity can perhaps, I think, be most celebrated for our perseverance. Even when we fail, we create anew with every decision. Every action is, and I love it. I'm going to add it to the hot word. Kimberly, I just heard her say fractals. Yes, every effort creates those fractals. It reverberates out into the cosmos. Our every attempt has value. And then I'm also going to suggest to all of us that there is an inherent bravery within every human being who agrees to come here to this earth with its graduate school curriculum story. It's graduate school here on earth. And the next line, deep roots are not reached by the frost. Entire civilizations rise and fall, and still we persist. I'm going to suggest to all of you that you possess ancient wisdom. Your DNA knows and remembers much more than you currently imagine. The next line, from the ashes of fire shall be woken. Over and over again, humanity rises from the ashes of failure and of endings. Here I'd like to remind you of the legend of the phoenix being reborn from the ashes. And this legend endures as early as from the 8th century BCE. That's when in my research, said it first was credited. The fiery phoenix gives us wonderful imagery of rising to live again. Now let us each think of the ashes mentioned and apply the imagery to our culture and to your own circumstances. Things are burning up now. Things are ending. Now, what things are you personally being guided to leave behind in the ashes of time? What no longer serves you? Chances are you will know quite well what your soul has been guiding you towards. And chances are these changes won't necessarily be easy. They may be deep-seated core beliefs and or habits that are very difficult to break, but you know they no longer really serve you. I suggest to you, let the energy of the phoenix be your guide in possibly rising up from those ashes and leaving behind what no longer serves. Now think about what is eager to be born in your life. What does experience and clarity say to you? What does hope whisper to you? What is still possible? And then go one more step deeper. What else has seemed destined to remain forever a dream now become possible in the new age of this world? And that, I think, can all be contained within this phoenix energy. The next line, a light from the shadow shall spring. Now we're going to get a little esoteric here. For quite some time, light has been associated with good, while shadow and dark has been linked with bad. But now, light from the shadows might mean much more than just the traditional separation of good from bad. Dark and shadow can also be associated with the void, the source from which all manifestation arises. All love comes from the void. Endless creativity and wisdom can be found there. The dark has also traditionally been associated with feminine traits in many cultures. Now we arrive at this time when the divine feminine in all beings arises to balance the masculine in this age of Aquarius. Therefore, the light from the shadows could be thought of as a divine balance, resulting from a rising of wisdom, long awaited, which will serve to ease the poles of duality that have prevailed for so long. Next line, renewed shall be blade that was broken. The blade referred to in the poem was Aragorn's sword, the future king of Gondor. This sword was described as being magically powerful and having a sentience, as did many of the artifacts in Tolkien's trilogy. Now I ask you to exercise your imagination with me a little bit. What if this renewed blade might be thought of as something else? I'm thinking of the human spinal cord and of the silver cord, that connection with the divine that we were all promised would always be intact. And then also the energetic pathway of the perineum. As we ascend in vibration, this area of the body has been postulated as lighting up. What if this enlightenment renews our memory of our covenant with our soul and with Source? What if this renewed blade signifies a refreshed memory of our Akashic records? Now let's talk about the spinal cord. It is a vast electrical communications superhighway. It regulates and speaks with all the systems of the body. And the energetic perineum, and some have placed also the silver cord, runs right in front of the human spine, creating a parallel pathway. So in my mind, I'm kind of thinking of 1 in 3. They're all kind of in that general spinal cord area. So then I was thinking of the spinal column itself. Did you know that there are 33 vertebrae? Now 33 we all recognize as a master number. And the way I think, my curiosity says, is this a coincidental number? Or is it both a catalyst to assist our ascension and a silent reminder of our divinity built right within the design of the human body? A silent reminder. In the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the blade that was broken was symbolic within the storyline arc. The breaking was symbolic of an entire age, 1,000 years, where a destructive force would grow in power. And then the restoration of that blade at essentially the beginning of the next age would signify love and peace prevailing in Tolkien's Middle-earth and his world. Going another direction, biblical verse in Isaiah describes a time of peace when weapons would be beaten into plowshares. Now I suggest, what might it mean for humanity if we can utilize divine alchemy to create an ascended blade of light within our own bodies? Is it possible that we can all wield a personal version of Michael's sword by enlightening our own spines? And the last line, the crownless again shall be king. Much has been passed down through the ages about humanity's fall and our unworthiness. More has been taught to us about people being born carrying original sin. And to go further, some believe that we need intermediaries to speak to God for us. Much of humanity awaits a savior. And in the interim, while we wait, self-love is not taught, and indeed almost discouraged in many of the world's religions. A great deal less, until recently, has been told of our positive traits and accomplishments. But the age of Aquarius has begun, and self-love, I suggest, is the currency of the realm. And I say that because I believe you can truly love all others much better if you hold the same regard for yourself. Self-love is very, very different from selfish. Two entirely different things. It begins with your own heart. From that starting point, we can come much closer to universal love for all beings, as is in our principles. We talked about it earlier. Ascension is upon us. We are now encouraged to utilize our gifts and to recognize our divinity. The crownless again shall be king. We begin to dwell in our heart space and to operate from there. Others have stated before, and it bears repeating, remember, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Thank you.
Really good.
Thank you. Beautiful, Connie.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so come see us.